we're talking sibling rivalry, a sensitive topic for many parents, because there's so many things that come into play. So how do you correct right and wrong among children without sending a message of maybe favoritism? You know? How do you know, there are many more questions, of course, and it's been the bane of an ongoing discussion about how sibling rivalry has affected families. And Izefua is here this morning to pick up from where we left.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Good to be back.
So the most common thing I can think of when it comes to sibling rivalry is the parents notice that their kids are fighting or their children are fighting a lot.
Frequently sometimes.
So that's really when parents realize that there's probably some kind of rivalry going on. So I guess the question is, why is it that children fight so much?
So there are several reasons. I'll highlight a few. The first I would like to mention is how parents or how the family resolves conflicts.
Okay.
So if you take a look at your family between you and your husband, you and your nanny, you and whoever constitutes the family, or even the children, a single child, when you take a look at how you manage challenging situations, you actually create a picture for children when they disagree, how to manage their own conflicts.
Okay.
And this is so fundamental because a lot of times we step in and we think that sibling rivalry is about them and is isolated. But a lot of times, because even the children are social beings, and they are bound to disagree, they actually begin to copy from how we interact when we're in conflicts.
Okay.
So that is one of the reasons why you see the bickering and the conflict in between children. If couples or whoever is within the family learn how to cooperate in the midst of conflict or peaceful resolution of challenging situations, even when it comes to the behavior of a child, the children, we always say they are like sponges. You give to them a mirror, something to look at, and then copy. So that's one.
Okay. Okay. You were going to list off another one?
Yes. So the second would be children are consistently interpreting what goes on in their families and in themselves. What do I mean? Every human being, even the children in our families, they're fighting for significance and belonging. They want to know, how significant am I here?
How relevant?
How relevant? And if we look at the Maslow's hierarchy, it is a fundamental need for us to feel I'm important, I'm valued, I'm worth being here.
Okay.
So when a child begins to perceive unfairness, whether it's from, it may not even be between the two children, maybe a parent is treating or another person is treating the child consistently unfairly, that child begins to feel,
I'm not important.
You don't want me. I remember we've had a situation where one day my daughter packed her bag and said, I'm leaving this house.
Wow.
That's a very, you know, in the midst of,
Before
I'm going out,
to that stage.
I'm going out, I'm leaving this house. So, and for me, it's always important when you see behavior in children or in adults, we focus on the behavior, like the siblings are fighting, so we intervene to stop the fight. But it's important we go underneath the iceberg.
Okay.
What is behind this behavior?
Okay, so I want to create a scenario. Something very common is two children fighting for the TV remote control.
Okay.
Maybe one wants to watch one channel and the other wants to watch another channel.
Yes.
So you see the children fighting over the remote. Many parents will just go and take the remote away.
Okay, so yes, of course, parents will go. So in truth, it depends on how you take it away.
Okay.
So in that situation, let's call it a one-off now. If it's just a one-off situation that happens, I could either say, would you guys decide who watches what first? Okay. You know, in all of our act of parenting, let's remember that we are using that situation to teach. It's not about the situation. Okay. It's about what you're teaching as a result of the situation. Okay. Yes, you want to resolve it. Or if it's causing so much fight, maybe they are hitting each other. Yes, I'm going to take away the remote and say, when you both decide what you want to do, then we can have the remote. So you're giving them back the power to choose.
Okay, but at that point, both of them are screaming, oh, don't take the remote away, don't take the remote away.
Oh, yes, of course, it's screaming, and it's okay to scream because they're hurting. I'm doing that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong that you're feeling the pain of me taking it away. But I must be mindful that I am not taking sides with, no, you sit down, your brother, you have to watch this. No, you're fighting. You both want to watch it, and your needs are valid.
Okay.
I recognize that. However, we have to learn that there are peaceful ways to have what we want. So if I say to you, both of you decide what you want to watch, and then you're not coming to that.
Yeah.
I take away the remote and say, when you decide what you want to watch, then we can have the remote. And a lot of times you find them immediately going, okay, you watch this and I'll watch this after you. Can I watch this?
Okay. So they begin to agree. All right, but
yes,
then
they begin to agree
I want to go
compromise
to what you said earlier. You said something about being physical.
Yes.
So there are a lot of children who physically, hurt siblings.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, even if it's just an issue of the remote control, once they realize mommy is coming to take the remote away, they could throw the remote control. They could hit the other child in reaction to you taking the remote away.
Yes. So, of course, hitting is not acceptable. The rules are clear. So you hit the other child. I'm not going to hit you back, because when I hit you back, I'm saying to you it's okay to hit.
Okay.
Which is where I always say that. But you hit the other child back, immediately I'm going to my intervention. I'm not taking side about the TV program, but I'm going to intervene and say to you, I'm sorry, you don't hit your sister because you want to, that behavior is not acceptable. Okay. But I am not going to say because you hit your sister, then your sister gets to watch her own program. Okay. Because that's not really the issue.
All right.
Hitting your sister, you could hit her or your brother for any other reason.
I've heard this come from parents before. Oh, your brother hit you, okay, you two hit him back. I've heard that quite a few times.
A lot. And my question always is, what are you teaching?
Okay.
So if I say, you hit your brother back, as a parent, what did I teach you to do? How did I teach you? Let's remember that our children, especially younger children, they are still growing in social skills. They don't know what... Sometimes you think they know totally. Parents, oh yes, they know, they're doing it deliberately. They do, okay, so when I mean social skills, they do not even know how to self-regulate. For you to hit someone, we call it an emotional hijack. At that time, all you want to do is either fight, flee, or freeze. Okay. So you chose fight as your typical response. Particularly, fighting is a response within the family, unfortunately. Right? You chose to fight. It's my responsibility to notice that this child is still growing and lacking in this skill. So how do I teach the child to calm down when they are upset?
So on the other hand, for many fathers with their sons, it's like teaching the child to defend themselves. That whole masculinity, be macho, so you're a man.
It's hurting masculinity.
Well, I've heard it before, that the children might end up being in some environments where they have to defend themselves, and if they don't know how to respond to an attack. So
then your sibling becomes the
punching back.
The punching back to learn how to defend an attack. It's just the same way as saying, a lot of times we don't look at it. I use marriage as an example. Would you say because you want to learn to defend yourself, you slap your wife? So that if another guy outside tries to hurt you, you've learned how to. Really, we don't even look at the world, the pain and the fighting and all of that. Let us think back, how did we learn to become this way, to hurt and not to care, to lack empathy, to lack compassion? How did we get this way?
I want to go towards sibling rivalry and bullying.
Yes.
Now. Because there has internationally, there's this issue of bullying going on in schools. People, children going to school in fear that they're not going to eat their lunch, that they're not going to go home with their shoes, that they're going to get wounded, or, by the time they come back home. And sadly, sibling rivalry also seems to be one of the foundational causes of this.
Yeah, and when you look at that, it's easy for us to look and imagine that it is because of the children, that is why. But like I always say, a lot of times how we intervene make them bullies or victims.
Okay.
We have this thing we do, and I think that a lot of older children find themselves under a lot of pressure, where you are in a situation, a fight, you are not there as a parent, you step in and immediately the attack goes to the older one.
Okay.
Do you not realize that you're older, and then sometimes the younger one
is the bully.
Was up to some mischief. So how we intervene, we should not take sides. When you take sides, you create bullies and victims. The child that consistently, and this is very important, we need to recognize our patterns. By that I mean, sometimes notice whose side are you always on?
Okay.
A lot of times you find there is a particular child that somewhere in your subconscious you believe is the troublemaker, whether you're there or not, and you keep taking sides with the other one. So that person feels that I'm the victim, and the other one knows it and knows that, I have mom's control. So they go out there. So that's one angle. But the subject of bullying is beyond the rivalry. It's just one.
In fact, it's beyond this show right now. We can't get into it
Absolutely.
deeper than this right now. But of course, you can always reach out to us on social media. Please tweet to us at TVC Connect with the hashtag WakeUpNigeria. Tell us what you think about this issue of sibling rivalry.